park. I think it's needed. So we appreciate that. The struggle that we're having as a department is we've been working for a number of years at creating a park plan, and to streamline that, we've wanted to have a limited choice of benches for people to choose from. About 5 to 6 years ago, I think, Don, we stopped placing the concrete benches along the river, and we've been denying that request for a number of years.
2012, actually, that's when
2012? Yeah, since 2012. There was a number of reasons. Overpopulation of benches was one. The fact that we have to have a large rubber-tired forklift and pour a pad for each bench was another. And the fact that they were extremely uncomfortable was another. So we've been working, in fact, we had hoped to have something ready for this fall, maybe September, of some type of a policy with a choice of benches for people that would like to donate and have a memorial bench within the city limits. So I think the bench is a great idea. I just question whether, after denying people the concrete benches for a number of years, that we go back to that.
So there haven't been any new benches since 2012?
Concrete. There's been some benches, but not the big concrete ones.
What kind are the new ones since 2012?
Oh, we got the tables.
The tables, yeah.
We were kind of waiting for the riverfront plan for some of stuff to be done.
And the car keys, were they showing some variations or options of different types of benches?
Similar to what some, they powder coated metal benches, similar to.
If any of you were in City Hall, we had these 3 of them in the lobby for approximately a month. I don't know if anybody saw the 3 that we had in here. 3 samples that were sent for the aquatic center, in consideration for the aquatic center. And that is kind of, I guess, on the lines of what we were thinking. They're portable. They can be lifted out of a truck by one guy. They can be set on a concrete pad, or they could even be set actually on the ground and mounted or not mounted. So it offered a lot of choice. So I guess our hope would be that within the next couple of months we could develop a policy that would be approved for benches and tables in the parks.
To include locations, right?
To include locations, correct. That was the other issue with the old system. I think everybody just thought that was an open.
They'd pick their site.
And it got to be where there was a bench every 30 feet in some spots, and it just.
John? So, sorry.
Am I allowed to speak?
Yes. Yeah.
I got a few things. First of all, the bench that we both would put out there would be the concrete one. That's what we want. There's, like Matt had said, there's no benches out there. And I'd be willing to bet that 60 or 70% of the population of Rapids don't even know that park is there. And as far as if you had to use a rubber tire vehicle to unload the bench to put it on the slab, we would pay that. And we'd also, pay the labor to do it. Unless you want me to pour the slab, you can pour the slab and we'll pay you for that too. So it's actually no cost to the city at all. And after it's on there, I will do the trimming around it so that your lawnmowers, I understand you get the lawnmowers back and forth, they gotta go around the playground equipment. Now, I will trim around the thing and keep the weeds down. So like I say, it's absolutely no cost to the city at all with this thing.
I appreciate that, but I guess the point is we're making a precedent. If we have 7 other people that come in after you that want concrete benches in other locations, are we going to allow that? After we've denied people for 5 years, 6 years?
Well, it seems kind of odd to me that we denied it and we didn't have a policy for what could go in there for that long. And to me, the main thing is the maintenance free, which you have that, if they're not maintenance free now, you're not getting rid of what's there.
Well, the choices that we were gonna allow were all gonna be maintenance free.
Well, it seems to me there's still trimming around those. If you put it on a pad or don't put it on a pad, you still have that issue.
Well, we try to design them so that the mower can go right up to the edge of the pad when we pour them. We try to have it so that the mower deck can go over the pad.
Yeah. So anyway, for me, it's where have we been since 2012? I mean, we should have had whatever the new standard.
And I don't necessarily disagree with you, but it was something that we had to address at the time.
Do we have any way of knowing how many requests to place cement benches have been denied between 2012 and now?
Oof, quite a few.
Quite a few, but now we're kind of working on the Devitt's Park option. There's some bench opportunities there and tables. Well, Legion Park.
Legion Park, we've
several
already
tables.
had
6 tables.
6 tables put in.
So is part of the issue though, not so much the bench, but where they want them? Or
In some cases, that was the problem, and the other problem was we were handling them, double handling them. We were unloading them at the garage, and then when we had time, you were taking 2 guys with a rubber-tired forklift, going down to set them. You know, we had time in these things.
well, I get that. I mean, the location thing, to me, that's just that's a separate issue. You can only have so many benches in a certain area, I would guess,
And I
right?
think our parks plan that we adopted in 2010, 2012, somewhere in there, calls for quantities of grills and benches and new playground equipment and kind of the whole gamut of park amenities. So we do have that for starters.
But it's almost like each area is a little bit different. isn't it,
Right,
As
I would
far
agree,
as
May I say
congestion and whatever.
Pat?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we've lived out there, that little park is on a cul-de-sac, and it's like half or 3/4 of a block long. It's a very small little park with the woods behind it. It's very, very nice, very pretty. And we've been out there for just about 21 years. And so a lot of people come out there with their kids or their grandkids, you know, and there is a picnic table out there, you know, that they usually bring out every year. But the bench was taken away about 2.5 years ago. There was one along what would be a tennis court, but which isn't really usable at all. But I know I had asked Matt at that time, didn't I, about putting a bench up, and you said, well, we don't do those anymore, you know, so I just kind of forgot about it, you know. And then we tried again last year. But I think that our thoughts on, I think it's more sturdy, I think it'll last a lot longer. And of course, we want to do a tribute to our daughter. This is Gail. She died 3 years ago of melanoma skin cancer. And she was 38 years old. I remember when we looked at the house, she was on a trip, she was in college at the time. When we came, we got the realtor to come over there, you know, and show us the house. And the first thing she said after she left is, can we go in the parks? You know, she was a very nature-loving gal. She loved everything about nature and animals and everything. But like I said, my thought is, and there, once in a while we have a police car that'll make, you know, routes. I'm sure they do because it's a park. But I mean, as a majority of, I think all of us neighbors kind of police the park. When over the years, we've had good years and a few bad years, you know, depending on, there's a few rentals around that little area there, you know. That's off of Highway 34 there. So, I like I said, a lot of it I feel is this is a lot more strength. And I know the place that we were dealing with, I was in hopes that if we could get it, we could put it somewhere where, you know, you can sit and watch the kids on the swings and the playground, you know, near there. So you'll be able to, you know, watch over them and stuff for one thing. But they had assured me too that once the pad was put out there, that they would come with it, put it right on the thing. They said they had no problem with that. So we wouldn't have to use anything.
And that's great. And, you know, again, just to reiterate, I'm not against your request at all. In fact, I think it's great that, you're willing to do this. My problem is that we don't have a policy at current time to address situations like this. And we need one, and we need to have a choice to offer people, so we're staying within some type of parameters. Because Dawn can attest this, we get requests for all sorts of different things all the time. And it's impossible for us to meet everybody's request. And we need to have some guidelines and a policy to follow.
So we haven't decided yet what the choices are, is that right?
We have a couple that
We're working on it. I think we talked, we can probably have something put together by August, September.
The policy will be easier to work on than actually getting out and plotting all the locations for the benches. That's
We want to
my
have,
list to
that's
do,
the
but
other problem.
that's-
We want to have locations for people to choose from. Because there's some areas that we can't place them.
Well, is this one an issue? Or do I
At that part, there's probably very few places that we couldn't place it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like
It's pretty open.
it's pretty open.
Is that a park that has anybody ever asked to put a bench in there?
By your neighborhood? Not that
I
I
don't
recall.
recall anybody
Mostly
ever.
along
No,
the river.
most of them
we
have been
could-
on the
We
river.
could use a
Yeah,
bench, it'd be
especially the
nice.
river.
I know that it's not in a place where, like, he said, a lot of people don't even know it's there, It's kind of just a little neighborhood park, although in the winter, we've got a little hill, so a lot of people come out there and bring the little kids to sled, which is really nice. It's a really nice little park. I guess what we're asking for is, I know I know you've been talking about this, 2.5 years ago when I talked to you. I guess what we're asking is, could we have an exception and put that bench out there, a cement bench? That's what.
So are you opposed to even seeing what they?
Oh,
what these
I've seen what they have. Yeah, I've seen it.
Well, you're the only one.
We went to Marshfield. and
Well,
seen
no,
it.
they showed us last year.
No, I mean,
pictures
what?
Yeah, they came to our office and we went
Yeah,
through.
we were down there last year up there also a couple different times.
And Marshfield's got them in their Wildwood Park.
That's what you
And
said.
you don't like,
some of the stuff we went to.
I don't know what these look like. So.
Oh, have you got a picture of them?
I didn't bring that one along.
But you don't like whatever that is.
No.
Tom, you just,
On their defense, those benches, my hand out were the first ones ever, put it down on top of the bridge. And you can get and I'm sure you probably have a metal plaque put on there. And they're nice looking, they're, something like that. Where it's gonna be located, like how many people are gonna know it's there, other than the people there? They started, in 2012 trying to get it?
No, 2012 was when we started
Yeah, no,
denying.
I tried like 2.5
Yeah.
years ago, I've been, trying to.
Like I say, they were popping up all over the place, I know.
Sure.
And Dave was
And,
selling.
and we, just so you know, with the choices we're offering do have plaques. They do have accommodations for plaques. And they are heavy,
Pictures at all.
benches.
So nobody's gonna be able to get
I
it
love
on.
We can mount them to the
Okay.
benches. They're designed to be
I looked
mounted.
at it, tell me what they gave us.
There's just something about those, like I say, we got one, we also got one in the park there. And
Like I said,
Personally-
my concern is that we just have some system here because we get requests for all sorts of things. Every shape, size, color known to man. And to have everybody come in and to go through this process is not efficient.
Well, I agree.
We need
This
a,
was kind of if you can see
What's the material?
was it powder coated?
was that the powder coated steel ones?
Let's see,
Are those the recycled ones or something?
plastisol coated. Yeah, powder coated, I'm not sure if it's steel.
No, I
So, the alderman of Ward, or District 1, I guess, and I and Dawn had a meeting with the DeKarskis a couple of weeks ago, and our conversation was similar to what happened here, right? That the city had opted to not place the more industrial-looking concrete benches in parks in particular because of some of the reasons that have been mentioned. And I think it's our understanding that it's almost a non-negotiable. That's the bench you want to purchase. That's
We
the
would like,
bench
yeah.
you would like to have placed there. I do struggle, because this has been talked about for a couple of years, and I do think that a policy needs to be created, and it needs to be created soon. I do have a tough time denying something without a policy that neither confirms nor denies this, right? And I think probably as commissioners, I'm speaking for many of you, if not all of you in that regard. So, I would make a motion to approve the request at zero cost to the city for the placement of a concrete bench in Ward Johnson Park at a location that's acceptable to the city.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by the mayor, seconded by Craig, to approve the concrete bench. Mayor, did you say it? Okay, the DeKarskis are paying for this at no cost to the city. Have you understood?
Well,
Tom,
I have one question about that at no cost to the city, because you won't be around forever.
Uh-huh.
So,
The installation cost, I guess, is what.
yeah, but it's more the maintenance going forward that,
We
I don't
don't,
know that there would be any.
we don't maintain any of the concrete benches that are already in place, just so you're aware of that.
Okay, so if something happens to it, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, we did
what
have a
that
discussion about the
meant.
memorial, because a lot of, number of memorials in various places are vandalized, have been vandalized.
Yes.
The trails and other places, so I think the point there was it's at no obligation to the city, that should the memorial plaque get defaced, I know that they're vandalism proof, but they're not, let's be honest, they find a way to do something to them, that would be at the cost of the donor. And I think we'd also need to go up with a one-page, we talked about like a one-page agreement, that any future maintenance obligation that would require some, purchasing of a plaque or the replacement of something would be agreed upon by the party that's donating it as well as the city. So I think that would be a component of the policy ultimately, and obviously a part of this situation here.
What you'll find with those concrete ones, especially the lighter colored ones, if they're underneath the tree, they start getting pretty dark and nasty looking after a couple of years.
So you gotta pressure wash them
Or
or something.
off or something.
And obviously, you don't have the manpower to be pressure washing 50 concrete benches.
Well, with all the benches that we have, we're gonna have that problem,
Yeah.
because you're not moving them nice. Yeah, I'm good, I just wanted to clarify what that
Legitimate
meant.
question, yeah. And I think as long as that one-page agreement, that both parties are understanding kind of what the obligations of the city are, there won't be a time in the future where we're gonna come back and say, well, now, committee or department, you've gotta maintain it. No, it's.
Right, and
it was
again,
agreed to.
that's my hope out of all this, is that we come up with something so that we have an efficient process and we're not putting up light poles and every other request that we get known to man.
Right.
So this is something that all those benches have that, right? Some kind of agreement to say that they're responsible?
No, up to this point, there hasn't been.
Oh, there hasn't been any, I see.
Unfortunately, we haven't had too many issues, but I know some of the benches have been vandalized, and
Correct, and some of the plaques.
that's what I mean, the plaques, yeah.
The very first one that was put in, my aunt and uncle, he said the plaque was, I don't know, was it glued on there at the time, but they vandalized it, broke it off, they figured they threw it in the river. Well, then they put new ones on, I think maybe David in the tin. They anchored them in there, so you're not gonna just tear them off like they did. And I know John's got a can of Brasso, so he'll keep it shining on.
He's also got a pressure washer.
John, are you up for that?
We'll take care of it.
Yes, I am.
We can have it, you bet we'll take care of it.
Okay, we all heard the motion by the mayor, seconded by Craig, to approve the bench for the DeKarskis at no cost to the city. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And I'd like to refer a draft policy no later than the September Park and Rec Commission meeting. On the placement, the installation, I mean, everything's been said.
Because
related
then
to
we
that
won't be
policy.
going through this
Yeah.
anymore.
I mean, we're gonna have a lot of locations in the new urban plan, there's locations at the splash pad yet that probably we would like to accommodate. I've heard the benches have been
They've been full.
short supply, so.
Good.
One of the
Thank you.
topics too, with reference to that, I guess, I don't know that, and we can have this debate when the policy comes up, but do we want a policy that's restrictive to the point where people can't choose the way they want to commemorate or memorialize
Yeah, I think
a
you're
loved
right.
one? And I'm a little concerned about that.
That's a good
I mean,
point.
if somebody's walking forward with money saying, I want to do this, location, planning, arrangement, all of these things make a lot of sense, but I don't know if we want to get down to the nitty gritty of, you know, these are the two options you have, you don't like them, we don't want your memorial in our city, that's just me.
Well,
So-
don't we always have the choice, even if there's the policy, don't we always have the choice to make an exception?
I would guess.
Yeah, I suppose in limited circumstances, but.
What I would,
I'm not sure what it
we
would
wanna
be, but
accommodate all of that.
I'd simply advocate for least restrictive, working our way towards more restrictive if opportunities showed that we needed to,
Yeah.
kind of a thing, on the front end.
Okay, good. Thank you. John, you have one more question?
Two more questions, in fact. Now, do we go ahead and order this bench, seeing that it was passed?
I think you'll have to meet
In the past,
with
we've ordered
parks.
them, I think for tax purposes, I'm
Sales
pretty sure.
tax probably.
But we can go down and pick it up and get it all set up,
I think so.
Yeah.
and then let you know, is that okay?
I think that
I
would
think,
be.
yeah, be in touch with Matt and Dawn on
Mhm.
location, I mean,
Okay.
zeroing in on the pad, the
Sure.
location, all of
Oh,
those
yeah.
components.
Yeah, I don't know the timing it takes to make them or anything either, that I can get with you.
It's a bit. I think in the past it's taken 6 weeks.
Yeah, I would think it's a while, and then, you know, depending on how long it would take to get to put the pad down and, you know, to
Mhm.
coordinate to.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, item number 4, request from Tom Sox to move the memorial rock from Veterans Park to the west side flagpole location. Once again.
I'll turn it back over to Dan, he's got a pretty picture here.
The request at last meeting was to submit drawings. I think that one's over.
Dan, I understand, did you go down on site with Joe Terry on
Joe
this?
Terry,
Okay.
yeah. And the call was to have 7 feet for the lawnmower between the flagpole, and so we did 8 feet just so it wasn't tight,
Right,
at 45-degree angles from the flagpole cube. And there's a top view and a front view. And Mayor, I know your concern was the size, so we've got that all on there. The boulder's 2 feet 8 inches tall by 5 feet wide, and the auxiliary explanation monument would be 4 feet wide by 1 foot 10 inches tall, so it'd be quite a bit smaller, especially in height.
And also, one more thing on here, they had the flag, the ceremony down there on 14th. And by putting these where they are, there wouldn't be in the way for the golf club. They stand pretty much off to one side there more so. And their honor guards off the far right looking at it. So it won't be in the way.
So you did talk to them, I think that was rough. Okay, good.
do you know what the
They didn't
distance
say
is,
nothing about it.
Dan, across from that, from the boulder to the memorial in feet?
No, I don't.
It's gotta
You
be
can
greater
get
than
that.
10.
The only thing that we need on that is we need that wide enough to back a large bucket truck in there
Probably about 12
to work
feet.
on the flagpole.
Yeah.
If this is correct, yeah.
If it's to
The ball
scale.
on top is.
Yeah,
It is to scale.
So I
It's
would
gotta be
guess,
12 feet.
I'd guess it's over 10. I'd guess it's
Oh,
between
yeah.
11 and 12
Yeah.
feet between the two of them.
12 we could do, no problem.
And
Because you have to have room for the outriggers, when the outriggers come out on the truck.
Yeah.
which way is this facing?
So the river would be behind town.
It's facing the road?
So as you're reading
Yeah,
the word
this would be
concrete,
facing the
the
road.
river would be behind, where it says the heading, the
Got it.
river would be back there.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Just curious.
What's the distance of your rig with the outriggers down? The width?
We're gonna be close, stud.
11?
Yeah,
So it'll be tight going in there.
it'll be tight.
Yeah, but those rigs don't come out until after you back it in there, and it would be.
Correct.
Basically, you could put them between the,
Past them and then put them down.
I don't think that'd have any problem with those.
I just don't wanna put them down anywhere on the concrete.
Yeah. So, how tall is that flagpole?
Tall, our bucket truck won't reach it, we're 5 foot short. We have
Ladder.
we have to have the big one from Water and Light come in.
Yeah, I see that ball floating around, well, who's down there?
Might be over.
Kelly, a question. Is there, just out of curiosity, is there a reason why we're not utilizing the existing concrete pad and kind of growing the footprint of this? Because it isn't, I guess I'm interpreting the memorial boulder and this, I guess, new, whatever we're calling it, monument. You know, it's
Just put it on here, you mean?
it's a component of it all, right? As opposed to a memorial with the flag, you know what I mean? I guess I'm just wondering the methodology of why that was cited there as opposed to adjacent, let's say, to the flagpole and on that pad.
The bottom of the boulder, Mayor, is irregular,
Okay,
so if you set it on the concrete pad, it would,
Oh.
yeah, it's not a flat bottom.
I guarantee
So it
somebody
needs
was
to-
trying to roll up in the river.
yeah,
And it wouldn't sit straight either, yeah.
okay.
So I know we had talked about the boulder just being on the grass, but what about the memorial?
The memorial will go
We'll have
on
a small
granite
pad,
pad,
yeah.
and it'll be granite.
A precast granite pad,
Yeah,
or a cut granite pad.
yeah.
Okay.
Is there any landscaping around it or just grass
Just grass was the plan.
for the time? Okay.
And is it the understanding that we have that the gift from the Ho-Chunk is to pay for the movement of the boulder, the cleaning of the boulder, as well as the placement of the monument? Is that our understanding from Mr. Decorah?
Not the movement of the boulder, but everything else.
When I had talked to Mead Foundation, certain female, and at that time, this is how long ago we started this. At that time, she was total agreement to moving it, and she said she'd pay for expenses. So I don't know what the cost.
Can we get something in writing on that?
Yeah, I actually,
boulder
I
or
heard there was
boulder?
kind of maybe, there wasn't any support for, I mean, not that they were opposed to it, it was more or less, I didn't think there
Well,
was
she was
financial
in full
support.
agreement of moving it, definitely.
Okay.
But I can go over and talk to her tomorrow or Wednesday.
But then to follow up, Mayor, everything else, the cleaning of the boulder after the movement, the delivery and setting of the monument, including the granite pad, is all included and paid for by the Ho-Chunk
Okay.
Nation.
Just,
So it's just a question of finding out whether she's actually gonna commit to the
yeah,
cost.
is there, what would be the expense to move that?
There'll be a guy in an end loader. He'll probably, you know, it's not gonna be a lot.
So why would Ho-Chunk not, do they not wanna pay to move it? Or
Well,
it
see,
never came up?
originally, Tom, the idea was to put this monument next to it where it is now.
I got
So
it.
the movement came later.
But they probably would pay for it.
And that was
They
not
probably
gonna happen.
Well, we could approve the plan, again, at no cost to the city, and the financing can be worked out after the fact.
So if the Mead Witter Foundation wouldn't pay for it, we could approach the Ho-Chunk Nation
Yep.
to pay for the
I'm
movement.
good with that.
And Matt, I suppose both parties would appreciate a number, you know, or an estimate, right?
It would be just rough figure.
$250.
I think they can afford that.
If I can get it in the bucket of an end loader with no problem.
But then you make it contingent on that she puts grass or
It'll get
something,
scrapped.
It's not,
make it parking lot.
hard to move.
Might have to put it in a sling almost to keep it from getting scratched up.
And if we can get underneath it and get it in there, that's gonna be, if it's irregular, we may be able to. If not,
Yeah.
like you say, then we might be picking it and.
Yep.
We got good
What's the-
operators.
What's the width between the front of the concrete pad and the path, trail?
Between the concrete pad and the
Yeah.
trail. You're talking the asphalt trail to where that,
Yeah, because it's adjacent to the trail.
I'm thinking like 15 feet.
There's quite a bit there, I think,
Yeah.
that I recall.
I can think of
It's not that close.
how far.
And it's not right on top of it.
No.
Matt, same concern as the bench that you raised earlier, and that was, the string trimming around the
Right.
features, right? Are we string trimming much down there today in that area?
Yeah, a little bit.
Or is it something that's incidental to what we're already doing?
That's part of their route along the riverbank there from the bridge south, so.
So you're there anyway. Kind of.
Well, there shouldn't be any around the new monument because of that.
Well, that was our intent. You'll have that sticking out far enough where the mower should be able
Yeah,
to.
there's a wash or
Yeah.
a border.
But the boulder's gotta be a pain where it's at now still, right?
Where it sits now, yeah.
Same problem, different spot.
You're eliminating one spot on that side and adding on the other, so it's a wash.
Any more discussion? Otherwise, is there a motion?
I move to approve the request from Tom Sox to move the Memorial Rock from Veterans Park to the West Side Flagpole location in addition to the monument provided by the Ho-Chunk Nation at no cost to the city.
Second that.
Okay, motion by Craig, second by Lee, to approve the Memorial Rock.
One more point of discussion. I know that the DAR chapter, the Ottawagan chapter, had weighed in on this at one point, and it's been difficult to reach anybody that's in that group today. So, or, to this point, I guess, so I would just maybe throw a contingency in there, since they were the originators of that rock, that there may be still some reason to pursue their affirmation, unless Matt, you've heard, or Tom, or anybody else.
No, I would tend to agree with you on that.
I'm just a little sensitive to moving it after, it's not ours, it was again gifted to the city, and
Correct.
I just don't want to create a mountain out of something. that we
Maybe
don't know
some
what it is.
contact with that group. I can try again. Like you said, they're a little difficult to get a hold of somebody, but.
And we have a contact, I know Jen had been searching for it, and then I think we reached out to someone, but hadn't heard back.
Okay.
There's at least a few folks still connected to them around town.
But at this point, we have tried, right?
Yeah,
And that was the original location, that boulder to start with.
yeah.
And, they put it there for a reason, I don't know.
Right.
I can see moving over to Veterans Park being, say veterans, but move it back there, I don't, in the original location. Sure.
Well, I had asked that question when we first started this conversation. I think that's important to get that answer.
Yeah.
Because the best intentions sometimes result in,
I want to have to go back to this group again.
absolutely, so I would absolutely agree with that modification. But if we can't get a hold of it, I mean, what's the time frame? You know what I'm saying?
How long does a monument take?
What's left on the monument is the bronze and the ceramic portion, so you're talking probably another 8 weeks. Their goal is November, the 100th anniversary of World War I, so that was their goal.
Okay. Maybe a contingency just to make additional contact, and,
Right.
if we don't have any opposition or anything to that extent, then we can move forward.
I still have an
Keep this
email
blessing
from that
here.
first round from one
Okay.
of the members of DAR. I can try sending something tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll see where it gets us.
Okay.
If you wanna put in there, say, Allied Vest Council, which I'm president of, approved.
Okay, I'll let them know that.
Okay, we have that motion, but we have a contingent upon the, that contact,
It'd be DAR,
DAR,
yeah, Daughters of the American Revolution.
that they're okay with this. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Ayes have it. Thanks, you got it done? Maybe.
When's the next meeting?
Second Monday.
John and Pat, if you wanna leave, you can.
Certainly can partake in the rest of the next right.
We appreciate that, we got a mass for his
Thank you.
I'll leave you this.
At 5 o'clock.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 5 here, consider the adoption of the Zoom master plan. I think everybody's got that in their packet.
Everybody need a copy?
Thank you.
I better.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
See you, Tom.
Kelly, I think Madeline would maybe want to speak a little bit to the.
Right, we talked about this a little bit before the meeting too, about how this is gonna be phased and such, so if you wanna give us a, oh, I'm sorry.
You wanna, yeah,
Give us
Yeah, I guess so. Since you all saw this draft, it went back to MSA and they revised some of the phasing. And that was kind of based on what the community input said and what the mayor's youth council kind of came up with. That made more sense, and then we talked about it with staff too. Our priorities within the phasing, so those are the last 2 pages in your actual plan. It's kind of like an Excel spreadsheet that has the 5 pages, and then there's a map that lays out the 5 different sections. But they left it open in the plan also for deciding what the top 3 new animal choices would be for those 3 exhibits. So that isn't prescribed in the plan. And then they also, trying to remember some of the other like leeway that they built in.
I think the intent there was to balance the need for further training and certification of our staff, as well as permitting. There's obviously some permitting we have to go through to be able to, and availability of animals. I think were the kind of the 3 components, right, Matt?
Yes.
From that standpoint. So
correct.
we wanted to present a master plan that gave us a vision and a guide without prescribing, especially because so much of this doesn't have timelines associated with it, to provide future commissions and groups the flexibility to decide when that time came, ultimately what they wanted to see happen. I think with the flexibility component that Madeline just talked about on animals.
Yeah. Also, some of the programmatic changes that came up in the community input, like through the survey and the youth input, people brought up like expanding the season, changing some or adding some educational programming, that sort of thing. It's vaguely, briefly mentioned in the plan, but none of that is outlined in detail either. So it's more, the structural changes that would be happening.
What's the plan for financing of these modifications over time? I haven't heard anything about a fundraising campaign necessarily, or there's.
No, we're not actively fundraising for any improvements at the zoo. Obviously, given our priority with the pool project, but we did receive a $300,000 gift from an estate a little over a year ago. So really what the impetus for this plan was, before we did anything with any exhibits, we should really consider what's the long-range plan for the zoo, meaning 10, 15 years probably. I think I would suggest that this plan would be have a solid shelf life of that, if not longer. So we really wanted to start with around that $300,000 price tag, and then get some general cost estimates that could still be moved around within the plan, but we want to honor that gift and get those improvements underway at the zoo.
Did they say specific things that they wanted to see, or just do
Really
some
improvements at the zoo?
Okay.
Yeah. And we also have our room tax dollars that this group oversees annually, that we accrue city room tax monies for park improvements, so the other funding source could be that. The other option is if the community or if another donor step forward. Now we've got some options kind of along the line of the park bench, right? Having some things that could take off their list. I know when the states are drawn up, the city gets asked, what are you looking for? What are you looking to accomplish? So people can put it in their giving plan. So I think this will serve a lot of purposes beyond that, but I think it more or less gives us a starting point for the $300,000 gift, engaged the community in a very strong and direct way, with over 600 community members filling out the survey. That was only open for a matter of a month or 2 at the most. Madeline, you conducted the survey for?
A lot of people mentioned actually sponsoring specific animals too, so I think if we narrow down from the list that was already voted on, which we'd want to bring in first or something, there'd be support.
Well, there was a lot of passion around river otters, wasn't there?
Yeah.
It still is. We talk about that with kids, and for some, I don't know what it is about river
A
otters.
lot of river
They're
otter passion.
active.
It's
They're
not something
active. Yeah, they're active
So,
animals.
so who's gonna actually decide the priority of where, like the 300 goes?
I think that's associated the way it's phased, really.
I think we would adopt the plan as it's drawn up. It's a guide, it's not set in stone by any means, but I think we would still come back for, I'd like this group personally to see us direct Matt and the Public Works group to come back with a $300,000 first phase or a $300,000 to $400,000 first phase. With some options, taking a look at what they're proposing as phase one, as Matt just said, as a good starting point. We may pull some things out. Some of these things we might do ourselves with our own crews and not require the use of outside consultants or services, I guess, by anybody. The trail along that stormwater pond is something easily we could accomplish with our crews. So I think that would be the step, is approval of the plan today or into the future sometime soon, and then coming back with a $300,000 or a budget for a first phase work, and then we figure out a timeline for it to happen maybe after the zoo closes this summer or wherever work time allows.
And will this be based on infrastructure need, like checking off the things that need to get done first kind of thing?
That's kind of what we talked a lot about internally, and Madeline can maybe talk about it more, but some of the paths inside the facility, some need to be redone now, some can wait, or now or in the near future type of thing.
At least to me too, it seemed like they did a good job in the beginning, kind of making an assessment, combining with staff as to what things were falling apart basically and what needed to be priority. So that was incorporated into their beginning conceptual plan type of stuff.
Okay.
And something such as the pathways, just the current design is not, it's not conducive to, it kind of just basically ends, now, and we'd like to have something where it has some type of a flow where it follows around and, comes back. And the trees have grown considerably since some of those paths were put in, and we've got trip hazards, and, there's definitely reasons to, consider some of these things higher up in the priority list.
Just so you all know too, we have the actual files for the plan. I requested them from MSA, so if you wanted to manipulate some of it and then add it into this somehow or whatever might need to happen, you have the capability to do that.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Any more discussion, or do we need a vote on this thing? Not really, just
I think we should adopt it, yeah. So we can put it out there as opposed to it's in the final form, I guess is what I would call it. But we should adopt it, I believe. So we can stamp a date on it that it was adopted by the commission.
Sort of contingent though on.
Yeah, right,
Financing.
without an implementation plan, right? I think maybe a second motion or within the first motion is just to come back with a phase one of improvements with a budget. Somebody put a number out there and we come back with a plan to be considered by the commission again.
okay. Any motions? Any other motion?
I'll move to approve the zoo master plan as outlined for the commission, with the caveat that phase one, a budget for phase one would be brought forward in the coming months for approval, and that we retain the ability and authority to make decisions on an incremental basis with reference to modifications to the zoo plan.
Second.
Right, second. Okay, motion by Craig, second by Tom to adopt this master zoo plan, the zoo master plan. Don, have you got all that?
I think so.
I can't repeat it, so.
Do we need to repeat it, or did everybody understand it here? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Can I ask just one question that I've been wondering, how much did it cost to get the master plan done?
5,000.
$5,000.
Okay, and that came from the room tax?
Park
From the
outlay.
Teskey, or was it park outlay?
I don't know if we were gonna put that under the Teskey
From the
as
memorial.
part of the grant, right?
I'm not sure how
I think
you,
it might have
where
been
you went,
the
where you put
Teskey
it.
Memorial,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
So it came from the memorial itself.
Okay.
So, okay.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, ma'am. Okay, move to item number 6. Tom, did you take a look at the bills? How are they?
Yeah, there's $12,072.18. Two really big items in there. Apparently we had some lightning damage at Winterfield.
Yes.
That was
It took out our main controller and it took out one of the pumps.
Okay, that's $23.79 of that total, and then, well, we needed some animals for the zoo, it looks like. $5,700.
It's a corral.
So, well, I moved to approve
Approve the bills, okay.
$12,070.
Second that.
Motion by Tom, second by Lee to accept or approve the bills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Staff reports. Mary?
We had a Mead splash pad activity planned with Macmillan Library, and that was on, unfortunately, June 18th, and our splash pad was down for repairs. So we rescheduled that one for July 30th. We actually held, the second one was the first one today, this afternoon. We had 78 families there participating for the study of rock there today, so that was really nice. Our T-ball and pitch-ball program ends on Wednesday, July 11th. We started for July, the month of July, zoo story time at the zoo. So our first one was July 5th, and that'll go through the whole month of July. Our recreation programs are starting with basically our second set of lessons for everything. We have a June, July, and August, so we're starting to get ready for all of the July programming. And I'm also starting to work on our fall and winter programming, so our flyers will be ready at the end of August.
Good. I see that splash pad is getting.
I took some pictures today.
That's a lot. There's a lot of people there.
It's
been
been
busy.
very
Well, it's been hot.
busy.
It's been hot too.
It's been very busy over there.
I've been tempted.
Our boys love it.
This month's been.
It demonstrates the demand, right,
The
for
need.
aquatic
The need.
programming in the summertime.
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of families have contacted me saying it's no pool, number one, and number two, it's not a place you can spend many consecutive days, and so I think it's left families again to have to find something to do if they're not in summer school, if they're not in Boys and Girls Club, if they're not in other sanctioned programming or camp or something else. So.
Children of all ages, like today, this afternoon, there was teens there. And you wouldn't expect to see some of those teens there. And then there's a lot of young families there too, but there's some teenagers that were there that usually are above the age of a splash pad, but they're cool enough.
Do we have any issues with the, behavior or additional police
Matt can
need?
talk about the one random,
Oh, yeah.
somebody climbed the feature
Yeah.
and put a sock at the top or something.
Yeah, they
We couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. It wasn't working when we were there.
actually climbed up one of the features and they got a tight fitting sock and they got it around the ball that actually the water came out of and shut that thing down. And then one of the landscape features of that place was a lot of rock, small rock. That was not a good plan. And we've got most of it removed. We should have the rest of it removed hopefully by the end of this week because
It's everywhere.
it's everywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kids were picking up the
And
rocks today.
we've done a lot of tweaking and a lot of adjusting, and we're getting stuff to the point now where it's working fairly good. We've got one more little project on the water journey, and hopefully we'll be good to go. Our camera system hopefully will be in there within a couple, 3 weeks, and we still need to get our rule board up.
Yes.
Those are probably our high priority things there, but it's coming along. It is. It's getting better all the time. Our problems with the valves is getting less now. The system's been flushed out. Hopefully all the sand and grit's out of there, and things are starting to perform like they should.
How was the water consumption in comparison to what we were?
The last time Water and Light did a check, I want to say was 2 to 2.5 weeks ago, and at that point we were around 600,000 gallons. So that would have been open, what, a little over a month.
But in terms of kind of where we budgeted to have,
It's gonna be above that,
yeah, okay,
yeah, for sure.
it's getting used, which is great. I know.
Well,
there was
look at the summer too.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
we've
extremely
dealt with
hot.
summers in the past with the pool. Mary remembers this, for the first two and a half weeks, there was days we couldn't even open.
Yeah,
From
Too cool.
too cool.
yeah.
And we've had an extremely hot
Extremely warm
summer so far, the last how many days, and that's when your consumption.
More evaporation.
There was some, I think it's worth mentioning in case you heard it, there was a rumor about a public health concern there a little over a week ago, that somebody contracted a parasite or something from the splash pad, and we made it clear and reminded folks it's not a recirculating splash pad. The water is wasted after it comes out of the municipal supply. So, you know, we all got some correspondence, or staff and I got some correspondence on it, and just want to remind everybody there's no cause for concern. I mean, if somebody came into contact with something at the splash pad from someone else, that may have been the case, but the water supply is the same supply that's coming from our tap, so.
Or the veggie trays, could be the veggie trays.
Larry likes to drink from the journey, so that's good. that it's
Yeah.
fresh.
One thing we should probably note too is that when we built that, we were concerned with trying to reuse some of the water, and we have that system up and running now. The irrigation for the plants around there is online now off of that recirc tank. So we
Seasonal
are,
wastewater.
yes.
Just out of curiosity, does it run it's on, if it's a nice day, it's on, or is it on based on?
Activated.
Like
Yeah.
There's actually a couple parameters. There's a timer, so it can only operate within a set hours, and then during that time, it has to be activated.
Okay, gotcha.
10 a.m. to 8 p.m. is about.
And then,
So after 8, you can push all you want, nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
Mhm.
And then it does one purge in the morning so that there's no stagnant water
Yep.
in the system, so it does an automatic purge around 8 o'clock.
so does it go off automatically
Yeah,
if nobody's there, or how does that work?
Yep.
Yeah, 8 o'clock.
Okay.
There's a little hand things you run your hand over and they turn on.
everything's timed and sequenced.
No, I know, but once they turn it on, and it, say, after a while, nobody's there, well,
It shuts off.
it will shut off,
Yep.
okay.
It's like the whirlpool at the hotel.
Right, exactly. Somebody get up and push the button.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mary, but you want to continue on?
Sure. One of our big projects this year was in our mowing. We purchased 2 zero-turn 61-inch mowers this year, so we're basically completely revamped how we've mowed in the past, with the thought being we could get, our efficiency and cost down perhaps. So we're still working on that, and actually we've made a lot of progress, and from what I've seen so far, I think it looks really promising. We have some narrow areas where previously with our large units, we were jumping off curbs, jumping on curbs. Very hard on the machinery, also not very safe, going out into traffic, coming back into traffic. So we've designated certain areas that we're using the new mowers on, and now that the big growth spurt is over from May, our plan is hoping to be able to only have to run one large unit most of the time and then both small units. So effectively, the small units, the rental rate is roughly half of what one of those large units are. So we can almost run 2 of the small units for the cost of one of the larger units. And in our narrow areas and in our parks with a lot of trees, they're more efficient, the zero turns. So we're totally relearning our, everything that we've done for how many years with mowers, we kind of threw out the window when we started over. And it's coming together. I will say that it shows a lot of promise, and we've already made some changes. We've got our ball fields now, we're mowing with the small mowers in tandem with 2 summer help, and we're trying some different stuff. And the bottom line is we're trying to get more efficient and more cost efficient. And I think this is going to be a win. So we're pretty excited about making this work and having it come through here. So putting some time in that. We talked about the splash pad. We've been working on that with landscaping tweaks and the settings on that. Flower watering, we've been trying a few different things. We've been trying running 2 people versus 1. so you don't have somebody constantly getting out of the truck 65 times a day. So seeing how that works, seeing how much we're gaining, as far as labor time and what works with that. Trees, we got a large number of trees we're watering this year, so that's basically an all-day event when we water trees and the flowers. So we're seeing how that pans out, with 1 versus 2 in the truck too, because obviously you only have X amount of summer help and you got stuff to do. So we're shuffling people around and trying to see what works and what doesn't. Putting a lot of time in on this generator project today. We had the contractors at all 3 locations working on the phase 2, which is the installation costs. So we should be receiving pricing from them here within the next couple weeks and see where we end up with that.
I don't know what that is. What is generator?
Well, so Fire Station 1, Fire Station 2, and City Hall all still have their original generators.
Oh, you're talking about backup?
Backup generators.
Okay.
Fire Station 1, 1982, Fire Station 2, 1969-ish, and here 1978. So these were all old units that were inside the building, and we have single wall oil tanks inside the building, and there was just a lot of issues. And so we started looking hard at this about 4 or 5 years ago, and we're in the process now of getting this plan put together.
It's not really park and rec though, is it?
On buildings.
These buildings as well.
So that's part of my gig. So working on that. Julie Bowling retired, so we're working on figuring out how we're going to take care of our cleaning operations in City Hall and Centralia. So we're working on that. We just got done with the 4th Cranberry Fest, so there's a lot of special event work, set up, takedown prep, so the guys spent a lot of time on that. Been getting some painting done. We got City Hall done today on the exterior. It was looking a little rough here on the entryways. Got that done, and we've done some bench painting, and we got some playground equipment. And our new hire is now on board. She started on the 2nd. Basically, she's a replacement for Wayne Vandenberg, who retired. He was one of our bucket truck operators. So we've got a lot of catching up to do on tree work. So hopefully we can get rolling on that real soon, because we've basically done very little to none for the last month and a half. So we got plenty to do.
No complaints on opening the shelter house by the skateboard?
We're just talking about that.
Surprisingly, thanks to you.
Maybe.
Maybe, but hey, well, however it happened, we're glad. I mean, it's been dirty and that's about it, but as far as vandalism goes, I don't think we've had any.
Good.
So
Great idea.
it's, however, if you got to them or whatever happened, we're grateful.
Well, if we need to do another reminder a couple times a year, we'll do that.
That'd be great.
Probably wouldn't hurt.
It wouldn't hurt, because like I said, it's
Probably most of the credit goes to the PD, to be honest with you, our SROs and some of our administrators, but they're top notch.
It's so far so good. So
Good. If we can figure out who did it too, we'll have some fun with that.
Anything new
Okay.
on Demet's and the,
Progress on that?
well, I mean, that's still under construction, I know, but did
Any
they,
obstacles?
did they order any of
The
that, or
fit
do you
part
know
was
anything?
ordered.
Yep.
Mhm.
Sorry?
That was ordered, the
It
fit,
was, okay.
yep, the components of
So
that.
when the time's right, that's gonna be,
I think
that'll be
the
fall.
September,
Yeah.
trying to remember when I ordered it right before the week of the 4th, so 2 weeks ago.
Pat
Have
must
they
be-
raised their money? They get donors to step forward?
Pretty
for their-
much. The only thing they were questionable on was the signage, because it was gonna be a little more expensive than what they were doing some different stuff than they were originally gonna do, so.
Cool.
I think they're still working on that part, but the equipment is pretty much paid for,
Good.
so.
That'll be neat.
Yeah, nice. And we actually have, there's concrete benches on that fishing pier that will be part of that plan. I've got 2 people interested in purchasing those so far, so.
Getting them out of there, you're saying? Purchasing them, getting them out of there, you're saying?
They're actually like a concrete slab bench, I think. I haven't seen a picture of them.
They're
They
not
just
gonna
seem like
follow
a-
the policy?
This is the Democratic plan. They're gonna be part of the policy.
Well, these, aren't those a
These
little
are part
different
of the
though?
plan, these are a
Yeah,
little different,
Yeah.
yeah, they're just, I think they're just a
It's almost
concrete
like a-
rectangle.
Yeah, I don't think they have a
Rectangle.
back on them or
Right.
anything.
yeah, it's not like a
Yeah.
bench, it's more like a
Oh,
plank to sit on.
It is,
Yeah.
and there's two people, there's one that just sent me an email today and said, I'm definitely interested, I just don't know exactly how the plaque's gonna work, which is still, we don't know either, how that's gonna go.
And the
there's
Riverwood
something
Lane, if you've been down there, it's worth a drive. They've done a really nice job. The
Nice.
contractors came in there nice and did a lot of good finishing work. We've got some issues. We've got a sewer line issue. There's a spot that's not paved that goes under the bridge. The railing isn't there, so of course it's not open or anything. And there's no way to really go anywhere else under the bridge, but you can walk it now. So as soon as they figure out what the sewer issue, they've got a sewer line that's leaking, and so they can't pave above it right now. But that line goes underneath the bridge, and we just discovered it. It's a little can of worms. But otherwise, the project's going well. It's on schedule, and the sidewalk installation, they were able to work around a lot of those trees. We made accommodations, so we're not removing trees along 3rd Street that were of concern. They're going to be in the house, the Brazo house, in front of the Brazo house tomorrow at noon, I understand. So we're going to watch and see how the sidewalk removal goes and
They're in there right
retention of those
now,
trees. Yeah.
on the way I
Okay.
came by there.
Yeah, so it's going well. By and large, it's gone as predicted, if not better.
Any problems on the riverbank during the 4th, with blankets and all that kind of stuff? That's
That was pretty
That's
good. The
going
only
pretty good
thing,
now,
the only thing that's bad is as hot as it was, you know, those tarps, some of those tarps,
Oh, yeah.
they got so hot it burned the grass bad in Veterans Park, but what are you gonna do? We just kicked up the sprinklers today to try to bring it back a little bit.
Yeah, we need
well,
a
it
little
hasn't
rain.
rained in quite some time now.
I know, it's so hot.
okay.
To adjourn?
Good. All right. Motion. Second by who? I'm sorry. Lee. To adjourn, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, everybody, staff members, commissioners, and public viewers as well. Good night.